Hey brothers and sisters, I know it's been a little while. I hope you've had blessed days as we wait for the glorious return of Jesus. I've been sitting on some things. I've seen a lot of y'all on other people's channels, and hello everybody. But basically, I am still seeing a lot of numbers. I see a lot of convergences with dates in April, but the thing that I felt like, well, I really do need to go ahead and come on and do a video about is a dream that I had. And in the dream, I took several pages of notes about the dream. It was very detailed, but first of all, the interesting thing was the night before I had the dream, I felt like I was supposed to do a thing on the numbers 410 and 401. And I don't know why. I kept seeing those numbers, even like on buildings. And, you know, I look at car tags and see numbers. But I wanted to, before I tell you the dream, I wanted to tell you, I looked up the meanings of these numbers. 401 in the Greek means a pouring out, an overflow, which is in 1 Peter 4:4, another 44. And then in the Hebrew, there's one occurrence, and it's Proverbs 30, verse 1. Now in 410, the Hebrew 410 means God. It's 204 times in the New American Standard Bible. God is 410. I didn't know this. And 410 in the Greek is to not be called to account, to be blameless, to be above reproach or beyond reproach. And there were several instances of it, but Colossians 1:22, I have a thing about 22, y'all know. Then I go to a website that I use called BibleNumbersForLife.com, and 401, which was the pouring out, 401 means, "Oh Lord, save us." And it is a prime number of, the ordinal is 79, and it means martyrs. Then 410 in Bible Numbers for Life, 410 means hand of God on a teacher. And it is 5 times 82, and 82 is the throne of God. And right after I did this, I had the song come up in my mind. He knows my name. He knows my every thought. He hears me when I cry. I didn't look up the rest of it. I don't know why. I'm really just kind of reading my notes. And then for some reason I looked up the number 37. It's a number I see a lot, 37, which means chosen servant. So I hope I am a chosen servant, and that, oh Lord, save us, and that God is on anything that I do teach on this channel. You know, I'm just doing my best at surrendering to the Lord and letting Him have me talk about what I'm supposed to talk about. And I had just put in, once again, this 410, 411, 141, I don't know. I just put in a comment, 141, on it is finished, about the 401 and the 410, and that was when I turned on the TV and saw the shooting that had happened at YouTube, which was at 4:40 p.m., 444 on my clock when I found out this news. Okay, so then the next morning is when I had the dream. So it would be the day after the YouTube shooting. Now, okay, in the dream, some of the things that were, I was like trying to write down. But So let me just try to get away from my notes because it's so sterile and try to tell you the story. In the dream, I am swimming with dolphins. Now I have a lot of different things, a lot of different scenes in this dream, but one of the scenes was that I was swimming with dolphins. And I am in the water swimming with the dolphins, and I call him my husband, but my ex-husband is up and he's throwing fish out, and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count 11 dolphins. 11 dolphins. And one of the dolphins is injured. And I go to hold the dolphin. It was a very maternal feeling. I was holding the dolphin, and the other 10 dolphins come to observe me holding the dolphin. And I'm holding the dolphin and I'm petting the dolphin and I'm like, oh, I love you and you're just so sweet. And I could tell there was something wrong with the dolphin. And my husband throws me a fish and I go to feed the dolphin, and the dolphin could not open its mouth like a normal dolphin, you know, would open, like Flipper, open its mouth. It couldn't do it. So I'm trying to feed the fish to the dolphin, and he's like licking the fish, and then finally I figure out a way to stuff it in to where it got far enough in that he could swallow, and I fed the dolphin. And the other 10 dolphins are all, they don't speak to me. I've had dreams where the dolphins speak to me. In this case, the dolphins do not speak to me, but the dolphins are pleased with me, and I was pleased to be able to help out the injured and sick dolphin. From there, I climb up this bridge, and I'm going the opposite direction from normal. Some of these things I haven't figured out, folks. I really haven't. I don't know why I counted 11 dolphins. I really don't. And this way, I'm climbing up the bridge, and I'm going in an opposite direction, so I'm looking for a foothold climbing up this bridge. I'm looking for a foothold in an opposite way from my normal way of doing things. Then I cross the bridge and I see a red-headed lady playing the piano. She's a young woman. She's really beautiful. She's got on a red shirt with red hair and a beautiful gold necklace. And I say something about her gold necklace and how beautiful she looks in gold. And then the next thing I know, I know y'all, I haven't figured all this stuff out. So I'm just sort of throwing some of this stuff out before I get to something that I did work on figuring out. And then I am at a concert, a very small, intimate concert with 3 male singers, and one of the men sings like nobody else. It's like when he sings, the whole world just is like, wow. Now, I don't get the impression that he's Jesus singing. These guys don't look like, you know, Middle Eastern, ancient. They look just like normal guys. But this one guy, it's like he just, like when he sings, it's like the Holy Spirit is just singing through him. I don't really know what that was. In this dream, though, I thought that I actually spoke out loud. And what I thought I said was, joy comes in the morning. That's what I think. I think I actually spoke it out loud in the dream. Joy comes in the morning. Okay, so this was the part that was interesting. The next thing I know, I'm having a baby. Now, y'all, I'm 58. I'm not having a baby. But in the dream, I suddenly find out that I'm having a baby, and I am delivering a baby. And when the baby comes out, I'm just like, oh, look at him. He's so beautiful. And he is darker skinned than I am. Now, my first thought was Latino, but now that I think about it, I think he was Jewish. Because in the dream, I'm not thinking about, you know, what nationality is or who's the father or anything. It's just this beautiful brown baby with big brown eyes and lots of hair. And my baby is special because my baby can already talk. And he can say one word, and it is Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm carrying my baby around to show everybody, look, he's just been born. And look, he can already talk. And what does he say? Thank you. Thank you. That's all he can say. But still, my baby can talk. And I'm trying to come up with what his name should be. And I name him Nathan. Nathan. That's what I went to. And I'm just going to check really quick and make sure I covered the other things. Climbing up the bridge. Across the bridge. Seeing the redhead woman. Okay. So this thing about seeing Nathan. First, I woke up and I was like, Nathan. I don't know a Nathan. You know, I don't know anybody who's had a baby named Nathan. So I went to go look and find out what the word Nathan means. And it means to, he will give. He has given or he will give. Or it means that he gave. Well, what did Jesus do? He gave, he has given, and he will give. I thought that was interesting. Okay, then on gotquestions.org, Nathan was a prophet mentioned in 2 Kings. Nathan was also Nathan had a few different things, and I haven't looked into what the different things that Nathan prophesied. I believe it was Nathan that went to King David and said, gave him the little story about what King David had done with Bathsheba. And King David was like, well, of course he needs to die or whatever. And Nathan said, you are the man. But also, Nathan was the third son of David and Bathsheba. They named their third son David, and they had 4 sons. The first son died, right? He died right after within 7 days of being born. So that was really technically, that was the first son, but he was never given a name. Then Solomon, then Nathan, and then I'm not sure what the 4th one was. And if you go into the book of Luke and look at Jesus's lineage, Nathan is part of the lineage to King David. And if you go through Matthew, the lineage goes through Solomon. Okay, so King David through Solomon. For Matthew, that would be the lineage of Jesus through Mary, and then the lineage of Jesus through Joseph, his not his biological father, but his father who raised him, Joseph. That would be through Nathan, the child of David and Bathsheba. But actually, both of them are the children of Solomon and Nathan. So then I went to go look and see this thing about joy in the morning, because I said joy. I thought I said out loud, joy comes in the morning. It's Psalm 30, verse 5. It is called a song of dedication for the temple. Now that is interesting, obviously, because y'all get it from a lot of different places. I'm not your news channel, but we know that the Jews are very close to building the temple. And actually, I hear that it could be built in days or a week, based on that it's almost like prefab. It's ready to go. I've heard that the Jews are thinking, since Trump is a builder, that along with the announcement, along with the actual movement of the embassy to Jerusalem, that with Trump, they could get that temple built. Now, I don't know how they're going to do that politically, but, there are a lot of people that are talking about that. But the verse about joy in the morning is Psalm 30, verse 5, which is that psalm is a song of dedication for the temple. It says, "For his anger lasts only for a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime." And we know that the Jews have God's favor. "Weeping may last through the night, but joy comes with the morning." Of course, that's very encouraging for any of y'all who've had things that cause you to weep. I mean, sometimes weeping goes on in the morning too. I've had mornings where I wake up crying too. But someday we aren't going to have any more tears, and we're going to be in heaven. All of our tears have been held in his hands, and it's going to be just joy in the morning. And of course, there will not be a day and night, because the light of Jesus will be the daylight, and it will always be day. And of course, our bodies won't require sleep either, which some people will really like, and I guess some people might miss their sleep. Then I found there were all these songs about Joy Comes in the Morning by Scott Cunningham Band. It's a beautiful song. There was, I got another 11, by the way. At that time, I got a 12, 11, 21%. You know, I'm seeing 12, 22. I just sort of write down numbers as I see them. I bet a lot of y'all do the same thing. I'm seeing 17s. I'm seeing 11s. I'm seeing 22s. Then I went, there's a song called Till I've Got Joy, and it's on Bill Gaither's Alaskan Homecoming playlist. They did a whole concert from a cruise ship, it looks like, in Alaska. And I had not seen it, so there was a song called Somebody's Coming, which I really liked. And then the weird thing is, back in September, I believe, I had opened up the Bible. I'd asked God about when we were going to be going, and I had closed my eyes, flipped the Bible around, and I opened up to 1 Kings 11. And I was like, okay, what's this? Well, it turns out Nathan is in 1 Kings 11, which is strange. But I had written down, okay, 1 Kings 11. Then I closed my eyes and I spun the Bible around, not like on my finger. You know, I have people like give me grief. I'm like, no, I'm just, you know, like here you would say this is my Bible. I would flip it over and under and then just open it, right? And so I did it a second time, and I opened to Matthew 5, which is a very important chapter to me personally, since I am not causing a man to commit adultery by marrying me because I'm a divorced woman. That's Matthew 5:32. Then I did it again, and I opened up to 1 Kings 11 again. Now, y'all, who opens up to 1 Kings? Who opens up to 1 Kings at all, or to Judges? I mean, this is not the place you hang out, right? I opened up to that exact same page again, 1 Kings 11. It's not a, like, this is like my Bible's automatically going to open up. Every time I say this, it's like I stick my fingernail, like that, my little fingernail. I stick my fingernail in and open up to the exact same page, which I think my last video I had asked, I was like, God, I need some encouragement. And I opened up to Psalm 111, another 11. And then that, so here I had a 1 Kings 11, I had a Matthew 5, I had a 1 Kings 11. I did it a fourth time, and I opened up to Matthew 5 again. I thought that meant, oh gosh, I'm going to be going soon. But, and I don't know the meaning of it. You know, we see through, what is it? We see through a glass darkly. We don't understand these things. But I do know for a fact that's where I landed each time. And Nathan is in 1 Kings 11. Oh, excuse me. Nathan is in, not in, sorry, I caught myself. No, I made an error. Nathan is not in 1 Kings 11. Nathan is in 1 Kings 1:11. Okay, I correct that. I was looking at my notes. I had been given 1 Kings 11, and then Matthew 5, then 1 Kings 11, then Matthew 5. But Nathan is in 1 Kings 1:11. 11, I don't know. Okay. So now the interesting thing about the Nathan, and I don't know if this is true, but I mentioned it on someone else's channel, and someone said, "Hey, you remember that Jewish boy named Nathan who did who had the near-death experience?" And I had watched it a long time ago, and so I watched it again, and I did think it was really like the last 5 minutes or what I thought was interesting, because he said Gog is Obama. Now, I know there's some weird things about Obama, but I really don't spend much time about who is the Antichrist, because I believe in us being gone before the Antichrist. In fact, I kind of believe that he will be around, but nobody will know who he is. And then at the midpoint, Satan will actually enter into his body, and he will be the Antichrist then, okay? But it was interesting that on March 23rd of 2017, God told me to read Ezekiel 38. And I read it and I was like, what is this? A war of Gog and Magog? And, you know, we're seeing it happening. And so then to get this dream about Nathan and then watch this boy's near-death experience again, which I think happened in, oh yeah, in fact, his experience, from what I understand, his near-death experience happened on the day of the last blood moon in 2015, which I believe was on a 9/11. Not positive. So, you know, could it be pointing to that the war of Gog and Magog is about to happen? And that was why I dreamt about Nathan. And, you know, sometimes God tells me things that are about to happen, but he didn't say, you know, hey, look out for war. I know he's telling some other people, look out for war. And obviously we see a lot of war things that are going to happen. Let's see. Then, for some reason, I have had this come up several times. 211. It's another 11, but 211 is the box of alabaster that held the perfume where Jesus was anointed with the expensive ointment, the expensive perfume. And I guess it was Judas was the one that was mad about it, because he was like, oh, this is so expensive. Maybe all the disciples were mad about it. But that is 211. And I keep running into 211 also, which is the alabaster jar, the alabaster box. You know, a lot of stuff has been going on. Let me see if there's... Okay. Okay, so this thing about the Israel's birthday. I mean, I've got a lot of dates that I'm looking at. You know, today is the 10th. Here I've got all these 11s. I can look at the 11th. I can look at the 12th. I can look at the 13th, the 15th, the 14th. Really, there's like every single day there's something to look at. And I had... I was counting the number of days from the eclipse and the number of days from the Revelation 12 sign. And then also thinking about, well, April 21st is 244 days since the solar eclipse, which is eight months plus 1 day. We know 8 means new beginnings. 244 means false Messiah appears. 244 means false Messiah appears. So this thing about May 14th being Israel's birthday. I know some other people have said that it is actually going to be April 18th. You know, it all depends on the calendar. So I think that's why we just don't know. We just need to be ready. But 5 IYAR, renewed moon says that the sighting of the new moon is expected. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's expected on the evening, on the sunset of 4/17, which would make that day 1, which would make day 5 of the second month the 21st, 22nd. Now, of course, that can be delayed if it turns out that the new moon isn't sighted. But generally, if I'm going to go by the Hebrew calendar, I don't go by the, I guess it's Hebrew cal or whatever. I think it's Torah calendar actually goes back and adjusts their calendar based on when the actual new moon was sighted. So in my opinion, if the birthday is going to be celebrated on the actual Hebrew day, it's going to be around the 21st or 22nd of April. And that's where I got the April 21st. It's 244 days since the solar eclipse, which would be 8 months plus 1 day. Also, 244 is 2 times 122, and 122 means city of peace. Well, we know that there's going to be a peace deal, right, at the beginning. And let's see, on the Torah calendar, I'm bouncing around here. I'm sorry. But on the Torah calendar, the 10th and the 11th is the 24th day of the first month, which is in the Daniel that Steve Fletcher is talking about. So there's just a lot of different things. April 21st also is the 211th day since the Revelation 12 sign. Well, 211, that goes back to the 211 that I had before. 211 is the alabaster jar. And a lot of us see 1111. Well, isn't a 211 kind of like seeing 1111? And on the way home from Bible study today, I saw an 1122. I saw some funny things too. It's only like a 15-minute drive home. I saw on 10, like on 10, let's go on 10. I saw a Dr. Yes, and I saw an 1122. Just kind of funny things. And on April 11th, tomorrow, it's 201 days since the Revelation 12 sign, and 201 days means peace pact with the devil, which is 2 times 67, and 67 means Gentiles praise God. So if we can go tomorrow on the 11th, that would be great. That would be great. Okay, I'm running on. I'm giving you a lot of stuff, but I want to tell you, I just had a really exciting evangelism experience, and if he's watching, I wanted to tell him. I asked him if it was okay for me to talk about it, but his name is Ari, and he is Jewish, 27-year-old, and he was our server today at the restaurant. And it was funny because I had Ferry, the ex-Muslim, then me, and then my friend Judy, who got saved at, I think she got saved, I'm not sure, but she worked for Campus Crusade for Christ. God just laid all these things out. She didn't get married till she was 40, and her husband is an evangelist. So when this all started with me and Ferry witnessing to Ari, she wasn't surprised at all. So I gave Ari a gospel tract. Ferry told him her testimony, which is on my YouTube channel. I know it hit 6,000 views on Easter weekend, and then by the next weekend, it had 211 more views. I think that's another reason why I went for this 211, which the 211 means the alabaster jar. I haven't checked it today to see how many more it has, but anyway, she's explained to the Jewish boy, hey, I am Persian, and I love the Jews, and how I follow the Jews, and we watch Amir at Behold Israel, and we know what's going on with Israel being surrounded by its enemies, And he said he had been to Israel 20 times. His parents had lived outside of Tel Aviv. But y'all, I mean, for a server, I was shocked at how much time. He even sat down at the table with us for a little while. And then I gave him my testimony of how, because Ferry was giving her testimony of how she has seen Jesus after she repented, and she got saved off of near-death experience by watching YouTube videos where when they died, they didn't see Muhammad, they saw Jesus. And so she asked God to reveal himself as to whether he was Muhammad or if he was Jesus, and she has seen Jesus 4 times. Her videos are on my playlist. And then I told him about how out of the blue, God had spoken to me and told me about my husband on June 28, 2004 at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I told him how God continues to speak to me. And the funny thing too was Judy and Ferry and I were going to go to a different restaurant. And when we went to the other restaurant in this other shopping center area, it had closed. And so we all got in the same car and we drove over to this restaurant. I mean, really, we were just walking down the street. And I said, yeah, I think this is the one we're going to go to. And then really, he was so open to hearing. And I was asking him, have you read your Jewish Bible? And he said, no. I said, well, listen, we just came from Bible study. And we're studying a guy named Paul, who was Jewish. And Jesus was Jewish, and I explained to him why Jesus died on the cross for the Jews and for the Gentiles, for the whole world. And he really was listening. We're praying very much for you, Ari. And he even let me have his telephone, his phone. We don't call them telephones anymore, right? I said, can we give you a Bible? Judy's got one in her car. She'll go get it. And then I said, if you don't mind, I'll show you how to read the Bible on your phone. And he gave me his phone, and I downloaded the Bible app, and I explained to him, why not start reading in Matthew, because you're Jewish, and it's all about Jesus's lineage of being a Jew. And then I also wrote on the gospel tract for him to read Isaiah 53 and Psalm 22. And I told him, I said, these were things, the Quran does not predict any future event. There is no other book, ancient book, that predicts a future event that comes true. But the Bible is full of predictions that all came true. And I told him, I said, God had told me about an Ezekiel war that is coming. And I said, it's coming, and the whole world is seeing it's about to happen because of all the different things that are going on in Israel. And he's like, oh yeah. And I said, and if you look at this Isaiah 53 and if you look at Psalm 22, they were written, I think 500 to 700 years, excuse me, 500 to 700 years before Jesus died on the cross, down to the point, excuse me, and I don't have any water, so I need God's help. They were written 500 to 700 years before Jesus, even to the point that they were going to cast lots for his clothes. So I showed him how to use the app. I showed him how it was written in different translations that were easier to understand than others. And he said he was going to start reading it. So he was just very, very open. I gave him my phone number. I said, call me if there's anything I can do to help you. But it was just so encouraging. He's only been in Atlanta for a short time. He's lived in many other places. His last place that he lived in was in Los Angeles. And he told me, he said, have you been here before? Have you talked to me about this before? And I said, no. He says, oh yeah, that was some guy that talked to me about it. They were really nice people. And I was like, Ari, God is sending people to you because time is running out. You've got to take the time to do this. I said, you don't know if you're going to die today. You don't know if we're going to have North Korea hit us with a nuclear weapon. You don't know if our economy is going to fall apart. You don't know if Jesus is coming back. And I said, just as everything else has been predicted, the next thing that's to be fulfilled could be Jesus coming back. And if Jesus comes back and you don't know him, you don't get to go. I said, I'm leaving. And Ferry and Judy and I are leaving. I said, you're going to see a lot of people who say they're Christians who aren't really Christians. You're living in a town that has a lot of people that say they're Christians who aren't really Christians. But the real Christians will disappear. And I want you to be with us. I gave him a gospel tract, Are You Good Enough to Go to Heaven? I said, I want you to be with us because the Messianic Jews and the Gentiles who know Jesus are going to be leaving. And then, yes, God's going to turn his attention to the Jews, and there'll be a chance for you to get saved then and go to heaven. But, it's not going to be as easy as it would be now if you would just, I went through talking to him about sin and what sin was. I went through, I explained to him, I said, what is idolatry? And told him, idolatry is breaking the first commandment, that God says you must love him more than you love anything else. And that what God said to the Jews in the Old Testament is also true where Jesus said the greatest commandment was to love him with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And I was like, I'm a new person. I explained to him what being born again was, and that in Ezekiel 36, 25 through 27, God says he's going to take out, he's going to take out that stubborn heart that wants to do what you want to do, your will. He's going to take it out and put in a new heart that wants to do what God wants you to do. And I was like, please, will you do this? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to look at it. It sounds really like pretty easy to do. So I'm praying for him. And what time is it? 36 minutes. Well, I just wanted to point out that in the Bible study that we did last week, which I don't think I covered this, was Romans 13. But just look at Romans 13:11, because they did 3 pages on Romans 13:11, and I'm just going to say a few things. The believers are near salvation, that love and live for Jesus Christ because he is coming soon. It's time to wake up. Jesus Christ is coming soon. He is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He's coming in the clouds. And then it says the sad case is that there are unbelievers that are asleep, and then there certainly are believers that are asleep. Now, unbelievers are more than asleep. They're actually dead spiritually. But there are plenty of people who are believers who are asleep. And they talked about the Great Awakening that happened in the mid-1700s. And that people who had thought of themselves as believers woke up to the fact that they were not born-again children of God. Their awakening gave evidence to their new spiritual life. It is not enough just to suppose you are a Christian. It's not enough to say, well, I did that, or I go to church, or, I'm a pretty good person. That is not what being a Christian is. Being a Christian is all in. It's being all in. And then they included the parable of the wise virgins, and they said, wake up. Jesus told the parable of the 5 wise and the 5 foolish virgins to warn religious unbelievers to wake up to their true spiritual condition. That is in Matthew 25. It doesn't give the exact scriptures. But I thought it was cool that here, this Bible study has over 2,000 classes of people, groups that meet in over 40 countries, and we're all studying Romans together. And here we were studying Romans 13:11 about Jesus coming. So we all hope that Jesus is coming, and we're supposed to love each other and encourage each other to do acts of kindness to each other. not let Satan have us arguing about disputable matters, which is what the chapter 14 is about. You know, we're not supposed to, as someone said, we're not supposed to argue about diets and days. You know, I mean, if you don't want to eat certain foods, you don't eat certain foods. If you, I mean, just read Romans chapter 14. I'm not going to get into it, but basically, we're supposed to love each other. The world should know we are Christians by our love, right? So I love you. I pray for you. I was trying to get a whole bunch of stuff in, and I know I talked really fast and probably it makes no sense, but I was encouraged by having a dream of having a baby named Nathan, and I hope that means that we're about to see Jesus, and I hope that it's going to be in April. I do. God bless you. I love you, and if he gives me something else, I'll come back on. But basically, I'm just enjoying the watching and enjoying the community that we have, how we love each other, and we're going to fight. We're going to fight for our unity. We're not going to let the enemy get in our way, right? We have victory in Jesus. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. Okay. I love you. God bless you. And I am praying for you, and I appreciate your prayers for me too. I hope to see you really soon. Bye-bye.